Hello guys, my name is Colin and this is Colin Talks Crypto. I have something very special for you all. This is the Colin Talks Crypto Bitcoin Bull Run Index, and it has just been automated. All right, guys, so the Colin Talks Crypto Bitcoin Bull Run Index, CBBI for short, is a collection of 8 different Bitcoin metrics that help us approximate or estimate when we are approaching the next bull run peak. It's a way to help us remove our emotions and just look at the charts and have a single number that paints a picture of when we're getting toward the top. And an index is a portfolio of metrics, and we are using 8 different metrics to make up the CBBI. Now, like I've said, I've never had anything so requested as an automation of this index. Due to its technical difficulty, I was doing this manually, and I updated it about once every 6 weeks. Once a month was kind of my target, and it took me hours to update it every single time. And I was doing it in Photoshop with the ruler tool. I mean, I was really using super 4K high resolution to get it as accurate as possible. But this took me a while to update, and I have never seen as many requests for this to be automated. So I put the request out there. I really didn't think it would be done because I couldn't see how it was possible. But lo and behold, someone was able to automate the CBBI for all of us to view in real time, updated every single day from here on out till the end of the bull run. And so I'm going to walk you through what has been created. It's been a team effort between myself and a young man from Poland named Kamil Monicz. And I hope I pronounced your name right. And I'll introduce you to him as well, because he has done amazing, amazing work. He doesn't like to be, I think, flattered too much, but I'm just going to give props where props are due. He has created an amazing, amazing site. And what you're looking at on your screen right now is the desktop version. You can view it in any browser of the CBBI. It's at CBBI.info, a very, very short domain name. So right now, I want everyone to just bookmark CBBI.info, put it in your bookmarks or put it in your auto tab for when you load up your browser so that you can stay connected to this metric. And it works in mobile as well. So if you're using your phone or your iPad or a tablet or other device, it is totally mobile compatible. Again, thanks completely to Kamil Monicz. And I'm going to scroll down here and just give you a sneak preview. This was an idea I had. I wanted to overlay the CBBI index on top of the Bitcoin price. And that's exactly what we have right here. We have the blue line is the CBBI metric, and the orange line is the Bitcoin price. And so now we can track it through time as the bull run unfolds in visual format. And we actually have several formats in which you can view this metric. Now, not only that, but I requested of Kamil if he could possibly make it go back in time now that we have it automated. And sure enough, he was able to do that. And so what you see now is actually the CBBI going back to the previous Bitcoin halving, all the way back to May 10th. And that's as far back as we felt safe deriving the past historical data. We may in the future attempt to make it go back even further, but right as of today, that's as far back as it goes for certain technical reasons. And we are working on it behind the scenes, and so stay tuned for perhaps even more historical data for the CBBI. But at least right now you have it all the way back to May 10th of 2020 on this chart. And I want to take a moment here to just plug the amazing work that Kamil did, and to please, if you find this useful, if you think this is something you're going to be using, please donate to both of us. We actually agreed that we're going to split all donations 50-50 down the middle because he did amazing back-end work. I designed the front end and I designed the metric itself. And so we're just going to share it as the team. We are the team CBBI right here. And you can see a little picture of him here, Kamil Monicz. I had to look up how to pronounce his name, and I might still be slaughtering it because he's from Poland, but and I'll tell you more about him in a second. But these are our donation addresses down here. There's a Bitcoin address, a Bitcoin Cash address, and an Ethereum address. And you can see that we have the QR codes for each of those to the right, so you can click on that. If you're on mobile, if you want to send a tip with your phone, you can totally do that. So we have the addresses here, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Ethereum, and the corresponding QR codes. Kamil did this completely free of charge. He donated this entirely without any request for payment, just because he's a very talented coder. I've never seen anything like what this guy can do, but he has pulled it off. And so let's introduce Kamil, because I want to give props where props are due. And right here, if you click on his name, you'll see his GitHub page. And this is something that he personally requested would be shared because he doesn't have a social media profile or presence, but he does have a GitHub account. And this is kind of his main page. This is what he values the most as far as what I should share for his contact. So here he is, Kamil Monicz. Zach0, Z-A-C-Z-E-R-O is his GitHub account name. He's from Warsaw, Poland, and he's 20 years old, and he's attending college currently. So I'm sure he could use the funds. And again, we split it 50-50 down the middle. We have not made a single penny off of any of this, and so it's completely up to you. You have no obligation whatsoever to send any donation, but if you want to, we will both be eternally grateful for your generosity. And so you can see he's been working on tons of different projects here, and you can follow him here. All right, so now let's take a look at one other feature that we've got here. So again, in this little pop-down menu on the top right of the CBBI.info website, you can actually click on the second item here, data in tabular form. And what that does is that will pull up a table format of all the historical data for the CBBI. And so I'll just walk you through this. The left column is the date. And so if you go to the very bottom of the screen, it's the earliest recording, which is May 10th. We had an $8,000 price at that time, and we had a CBBI figure of 36. And so if we go to the top here, we see that the second column is the price of Bitcoin, and the CBBI confidence score, how confident we are that we're approaching that peak, is the third column here. And so currently we have a 75 rounded up to a 76, which is the score for the CBBI today. And so next up, we have the 8 different metrics, and you'll notice that they're color coded, and each of these metrics are color coded according to their own performance. They're not color coded to 100, they're color coded to where each has reached its maximum so far. And so I'm going to zoom out and just give you an example of what this looks like. So if we zoom way out here, you can't necessarily read all of it, but as we scroll down, you can see that the colors indicate that we've gone from a white area at the bottom back during the halving, where we were nowhere near the top of the CBBI, and slowly but surely some of the metrics, some faster than others, approached their peaks. And you can see that, for example, this column right here, here's a good example. This is the Bitcoin search term. It hit about an 8 or a 9 here, and that was a local peak for that particular metric. But if it continues to skyrocket even higher, which I do anticipate, this color will begin to fade down toward white again as the new peak becomes the new blue for that particular metric. So I hope that makes sense. Each column is colored relative to its own score. And so I thought that would be a clever way to kind of illustrate this in a more granular format if you want to just break out of this very simplified version. But again, the CBBI metric here, 76, is the number that we're looking at, the main number. But the table breaks it down to show you how this number was derived for every single day in the history of Bitcoin back to the last halving. Okay, so that's part A of the video, guys. And again, please consider dropping a donation or a tip at the addresses below. If you haven't already done so, that would mean a lot to us both. And the second part of the video, I'm just going to dive into each of the metrics as I've done before, and I'm going to show you how we get to the scores we get to. So first up, we have the Bitcoin golden 51-49% ratio. And this basically observed that from the bottom of every bear market cycle, indicated by this green arrow, to the halving event, made up 51% of the bull run in terms of time from the bottom forward. And then you take the remaining 49% from that halving event, and that tells you where the peak will be. And we plot the distance we've traveled currently horizontally from the start of the first light green box to the end of that dark green box, and we are currently 84% of the way through the golden 51-49% ratio metric. All right, and the next metric is the Bitcoin search term on the Google search engine. And we made a tweak to this. We actually upgraded it so that it's the worldwide metric, because previously it had been only the US. And don't worry, any changes that we make to this metric as we fine tune it are reflected across the entire history. It goes back in time and it corrects itself automatically. It's really awesome how this thing has been made. And so currently we're at a 33 for the Google search term, and this is a arbitrary number relative to the the high on the chart, which is currently the previous Bitcoin bull run. That's 100. And basically, if we presume that the upcoming Bitcoin bull run is up here, which will become the new high on this chart, it will push this previous bull run peak down to about 1/8, which was what happened the previous bull run cycle. And so this metric here, 33, translates into a 4% of where it will be when the next upcoming bull run peak is at the 100% on this chart. And don't worry, guys, this is probably the most contentious metric of all of them. I love the fact that it is an outlier on the score. You know, if you'll notice, most of these are in the 80s to 100% right now, and the Bitcoin search term is far, far from that. And I think that that's really awesome and very helpful, in fact. Some of you disagree. That's totally fine. If you want, you can take the same metrics and subtract that one and come to your own figure. But for now, the CBBI, while it is in beta and it is subject to change, and none of this is financial advice, you know, it does include the Google Trends search term because in my observation, it spikes suddenly near the peak. And it's a very sudden indicator of when we're actually at the top. And it kind of filters out the noise. A lot of these other metrics I feel are a bit more noisy because they already show we're so far along. Like, look at this, 95% here or 100% here. And I don't really feel that we're at the top. Maybe we're at a local top or a double top kind of a thing. But the Google search trend term doesn't give us that noise. It just tells us when we're actually there. So that's why it is still included. And again, this is subject to change. You know, I'm going to observe this all the way to the peak and all the way to the bear market bottom. And then by that time, I think we'll have it pretty well ironed out. But don't worry, it's going to be reflected across the entire history. So it'll always be updated with all the historical information. All right, the next metric is Plan B's famous stock to flow chart. And real quickly here, we'll zoom in. Basically, all we do is we take an overshoot period from this blue corner of where the supply issuance changes, and we take what's our progress from this peak here, this yellow peak, to where the future peak will be horizontally. And currently where we are, this orange dot is 87% of the way from the last peak and on the way to the upcoming peak. Next up, we have the Pi cycle top indicator. This is an exciting one. So basically, this creates two channels of two different moving averages, and historically, every time these have crossed has indicated a peak. And you can see it's drawn with a very fine, it might be hard to see, dotted line right here vertically from where it crosses. And again, you'll see one right here, and you'll see one right here, and there's one right here. We just had another cross, believe it or not. So I think that that bodes for a double top situation. And you'll see it from some of the other metrics that we actually have a ways to go. So maybe we have some downward correction to go from here. You know, we'll see. I'm not really sure where this is going to go. But right now, the Pi cycle top indicator has crossed. Here, we'll zoom in. I'll just show you this zoomed way in. You can see that the green line and the orange line have touched. And that's where that little dotted red line is indicating. Just about 3 days ago, we actually had the cross occur. And so there's one metric, the Pi cycle top indicator. It historically has predicted every single peak. So it'll be interesting to see if this is any different, because right now the Bitcoin price is surging upwards. And so is it in fact the peak? Is the Pi cycle top indicator accurate? You know, we will find out. And back in 2013, we had a double top situation. And you can see that we had the orange bottom channel line crossing over the green line right here. That was when Bitcoin hit $255 per Bitcoin. And then again, when Bitcoin hit $1,150. And so again, it's both times. It's where the orange line of the channel crosses up over the green channel line. It's not when the orange channel line goes back below the green channel line. Otherwise, this would be a peak and this would be a peak, which it's not. So that being said, we did see a crossover recently and we have hit that peak. Very fascinating because it's not actually a peak. It's actually continuing to climb. So we will keep our eye on that one. But again, that's why we have 8 metrics here, because if we had been relying on this chart solely, we might have sold right now and taken profits. And who knows, in 3 weeks, we might have said, gosh, I wish we did, because it was a local top. We have 4 months to correct until the next actual Bitcoin bull run peak, like we did in 2013, but we just don't know. And so we're removing our human bias and we're introducing a computer algorithm, a average of metrics that takes out our emotion, it takes out our bias, and gives us a figure of the CBBI. All these figures right there. So maybe we're at a peak, maybe we're not, but the CBBI tells us that we have a little ways to go. Okay, guys, let's move on to the next metric. This is the 2-year moving average multiplier. It's a very simple analysis. We have a channel formed by a 2-year moving average line, this green line, which is the average of prices 2 years back at any plotted point on the chart. And then the red line is the exact duplicate of the green line, but it's the price times 5. And that creates a channel. And historically, anytime the Bitcoin price has been below the green line, which is shaded in this light green color, you can see that's historically been a good time to buy Bitcoin. Also, you'll notice that the tops are reducing every time it's a little further up the further back we go, percentage-wise. And so we account for that. And so we're looking for a position that's accounting for that above this red line. And currently, we are at a 77% on the 2-year moving average when you take into account the overshoot period, reducing slightly every bull run peak. And so 77% for this metric. Next up, this is another change. I had removed the Trololo trend line from my last video's metric, but I found, with your help, guys, thank you very much for sharing this with me, a replacement, a better replacement, because that was the crypto market cap Trololo trend line. And this is a Bitcoin specific Trololo trend line. And this is a rainbow price chart, log scale, based on that particular formula. And so right now you can see we're right here. We're in this kind of light or medium orange colored area. And again, on this chart, you'll notice a decreasing peak from here to here. And so we're going to assume that it's going to go about to this second darkest orange color for the actual peak. And when you take that into consideration, we measure from the bottom of the blue part of the rainbow up to where we're at in comparison to that second highest dark orange band. And we are currently at an 82% of the way up. And I like this one because the goal moves in time. The further right we go, the higher up the rainbow moves. And so the longer the bull run stretches, the higher that price target goes. And it sort of dynamically adjusts itself to compensate for that. Next up, we have the RUPL, or previously known as the NUPL. Show me your NUPLs, my favorite chart, just because of the name. And so the RUPL line is this red line, and it's overlaid onto the Bitcoin price in the background. This chart is divided into its different emotional parts of the trading cycle. So we have capitulation is this big green area, and then we have hope and fear. Hope is on the way up, fear is on the way down in this band. Then we have optimism on the way up and denial on the way down on this band. And then in this orange colored band, we have greed, and at the very top, we have euphoria. Now, it's worth noting that, again, the peaks decline, and so we're taking that into account. And so actually, I don't think we're going to make it into the euphoria stage on this particular chart. I think we might just barely touch this line or a little below that. And so we've taken that into account when calculating this metric. And so the relative unrealized profit / loss, or RUPL metric, currently is at 95%. And lastly, we have the Puell Multiple. So we have the red band, which has historically been a good time to take profits. We have the Bitcoin price in the background, which is this blue line. And then the dark red line is the Puell Multiple metric itself. And so we draw a line through the peaks once again because we see a decreasing trend. And we calculate how far we're up from the bottom here, the bottom of this green band, up to where we're currently at, and then where we would hit on this trend line in the future. And we're currently at 78% of the way up on the Puell Multiple. And that takes us through all the different metrics on the CBBI. Guys, if you haven't, please bookmark the CBBI.info webpage. I'm really excited about this. I'm super happy with how this turned out. I can't wait to follow this up the bull run. I'm really happy that I don't have to spend 2 hours every time just preparing the content for the videos. And now I can just jump right in and show you the charts and show you the metric and where we stand today. So don't forget, there is a menu here. You can view the data in tabular form. You can view Kamil's GitHub account. You can send us a donation at the bottom of the page. And one more thing, there is a free API for anyone to use. You can actually get all the historical data all the way back to the last halving event for your own use. If you want to create your own visualization, your own website, your own metric, all I ask is that you link back to the original, you give us a shout out, you give our website, CBBI.info, credit where credit is due, and us as the creators, and then do with it as you wish. So have a great day, guys. I'm so happy that I was able to deliver this to all your requests because, like I said, it was the most requested thing I've ever seen that I've ever created with Colin Talks Crypto. Have a great day.